Hello and welcome to ABN's Jihad Watch program. I am Robert Spencer, and we continue today with our series of interviews of notable freedom fighters on the scene working to defend human rights, the principle of the freedom of speech, the equality of rights of all people before the law, and other important principles of Judeo-Christian Western civilization that are threatened by Sharia, Islamic law. Today, I'm very proud to say that we have with us Nonie Darwish, who is a good friend and the author of Cruel and Usual Punishment, The Terrifying Global Implications of Sharia Law, Now They Call Me Infidel, Why I Renounced Jihad for America, Israel, and the War on Terror, and most recently, The Devil We Don't Know, The Dark Side of Revolutions in the Middle East. Nonie, thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Robert. Always great to be with you.
And it's always great to see you. And I was just discussing with you before the show about this new survey that showed that Americans were losing trust in one another. And you were saying some extraordinary things that I thought would be important for us to discuss today. And so the theme for today is the loss of trust. And can you explain what the relevance of that finding is to the work that you do defending human rights?
Absolutely. It's a very sad survey that it's a report that stated that Americans, 1/3 of the American people today say that they don't trust most people around them. That's in comparison to the 1972, the same survey, half of Americans at that time said they don't trust people around them. So we are moving in a trend of distrust of one another, which is really the loss of our Judeo-Christian culture. Because Judeo-Christian societies, the reason they are successful is because Christianity gave us a tool by which we can succeed as a society because we trust one another. Unfortunately, we are moving in the wrong direction. And just look at Muslim countries. The one thing that is very noticeable if you visit or try to understand Islamic culture and the reason for its failures is because Muslims don't trust each other. And so I hope that Americans will understand that this trend is dangerous and they can go back to their roots of trusting through our Judeo-Christian value system.
I see. Well, this is a very fascinating insight. And when you say Muslims don't trust each other, I'm reminded of, for example, the situation in Iraq or Syria, where there are local areas where there is a clan or a tribe or a group of people united by some kind of bond, usually loosely familial, and they're armed to the teeth and set against, in a blood feud, the people in the next village or the next town over. And it's extremely hard to bring, for example, a Western-style secular republic to such a culture as George W. Bush found out in Iraq. There are virtually insurmountable obstacles. Now, the question here is,
yeah.
What's that?
Just to comment on what you just said about tribalism.
Yeah.
Like trust is given only to the immediate family and then maybe the tribe. And this is based on fear. It's a kind of trust that's based on fear and obligation more than character. That's very different from the trust we have in the West, which is based on character and value system.
Okay.
But there is also another reason why the Islamic countries don't have trust.
Yes.
It goes back to the Sharia law. Sharia law entrusts each Muslim to be the judge of other people. So under Sharia law, there are murders where a Muslim is forgiven if he executes somebody because they are an apostate or because there are certain murders that are forgiven. Apostasy, one of them, infidelity, So that means that I should be afraid of my neighbor if I misbehave against Sharia.
I
And
see.
because of that, people don't trust each other because of Sharia.
So I was actually, you anticipated my question because I was going to ask you, we're always told in the West in particular that Islam is a religion of universal brotherhood, of no racism, no class structure, everyone is equal, and Muslims have this great bond in the common ummah. But you would say that that bond is essentially just fictional, or else it's undermined by this necessity to keep everyone on the straight and narrow, and so everyone is afraid of everyone else, afraid of being seen, afraid of doing something that would step over some line and trigger them having to be the executor of Allah's punishment. Is that correct?
Actually, Islam, you've made a very good point. Islam is a contradiction. In everything, Islam contradicts itself. It speaks about brotherhood, but look at the Arab world. Is there brotherhood between Arab countries? Do you know that Arab countries forbid getting a visa from one Arab country to another is very difficult.
Why is that? I mean, why would it be
It's,
hard to go, for example, from Egypt to Syria or Morocco to Iraq? What would be the problem? What would be, on
especially
what grounds?
Saudi Arabia, Libya, they don't trust each other. They don't. If you, as an Egyptian, go and live in any other Arab country, you're always a foreigner. Saudi Arabia does not give you the citizenship. Will never give you, even if you go there and you give birth to an Egyptian kid there, on the grounds of Saudi Arabia, they will never give you the citizenship. Do you know that there is more brotherhood between European countries in movement? You can, as a European, you can visit other European countries, non-Muslim countries, with more welcoming arms than between Arab countries. Arab countries will always treat you as a stranger and will never give you citizenship. So this is a fallacy that the Arabs try to give an image of unity and trust to Western cultures. And Western cultures keep buying it, Robert.
Yes.
We keep buying the lies about Arabs.
It's amazing to me. Why don't you tell us why you think that is? I mean, it strikes me as endlessly puzzling, but why is it that so many Westerners have this rosy and romanticized view of the Islamic world and Islamic culture?
Because they buy the lies. See, the West have drank the Kool-Aid of Islam. 9/11, I really believe that 9/11, Robert, has changed the psyche of the West towards itself and towards Islam. I think we have been traumatized through terror. The one thing that the West never spoke about after 9/11 is the psychological impact of 9/11 on the American people, on Western culture. We are acting like we don't care, like we're too strong to even admit that 9/11 actually harmed us psychologically. We have been traumatized. We have turned against each other because of 9/11. And that's why we are buying the lies. Because we want to be loved by our terrorists. It's like a Stockholm syndrome. We want their approval so they can leave us alone. And unfortunately, we are not admitting to ourselves that this is a culture that's based on fear, based on terror of itself, terror between Muslim to Muslim. And we are buying this lie that they are united. We're buying this lie that they believe in themselves. We're buying the lies that they are powerful. and we're hurting ourselves in that process.
Absolutely. These things that you're saying about this fear, it reminds me that I've actually written several pieces myself about how Islamic law creates an empire of fear, that it's not really any kind of anything analogous to the Christian understanding of the transformation of the individual, but rather just an outward conformity that is based on fear. That all too often women, for example, wear hijab not because they're pious, although there are pious women who wear hijab. Nonetheless, at the same time, there are women who wear it because they know they'll get beaten up if they don't. And so many other things are like that. I think.
It's
Do you think it would?
superficial with women. It's superficial. It's superficial honor,
Yes,
visual honor. It's not character honor. It's visual honor, and
exactly.
everything is lying. Lying in your image. Image is everything in the Muslim world, and lying is not only accepted, but it's a badge of honor under Islamic law if it's for certain purposes.
Yes,
Lying in Muslim culture to cover up the weakness of Muslims is a badge of honor. Lying to protect your family or to make your wife happy is a badge of honor. So that's why there is distrust, because there's lying between Arab countries, lying at every level, family level, international level. Lying is not just between Muslims and non-Muslims. That's that's for sure. But there's lying between Muslims as individuals and as nations. And that's why they don't trust each other, because it's not a taboo under Islam not to lie. It's a taboo in Judeo-Christian culture not to lie. And for civilization to happen, to build an economy, a successful economy, you have to build it on trust.
Well, why is there all this lying? What is that all about? I mean, I know that Muhammad in a hadith says that lying is allowed, as you said, between a husband and a wife to keep the wife happy, and lying is allowed in wartime. But when you say there's lying on such epidemic proportions, why is that? Where did this come from? How did this arise?
Well, when the value system does not feel that lying is a sin, by nature, we humans are not virtuous. Virtue comes to us from the Judeo-Christian culture. So it's taught. And when the virtue of being honest is not taught, you never miss it. You don't understand. I never felt guilty about lying, white lies. I call them white lies when I used to be Muslim. In order not to hurt the feeling of my neighbor, when she knocks at the door and I tell her, come in, I have nothing to do. When in fact, I was really busy and I wanted to do something else. Even such a lie, such a simple lie like that, is that's what we used to do, is constantly lie. And because of this, people never trusted one another. But at the same time, you cannot sustain a lie forever. And that's why people stab each other in the back in the Middle East very easily. A lot of Westerners, when they go to the Middle East, they are very disappointed in many promises by Muslims. They promise them everything, and then they never deliver. And they're really shocked. Why is this happening? And it's because this is how we do things.
Well, that's astonishing.
It took a long time, Robert, to change and to feel that it's better for me not to lie and maybe disappoint somebody than than give promises that I cannot hold.
Yes. That's amazing. It's astonishing to think of an entire culture and
Entire
civilization.
culture.
What's that?
And that's why it's in a chaos.
Yes.
They can't get their act together because they don't trust each other. The Western civilization was actually created. Things were sold cheaper because I can have a contract, a verbal contract with for business, and I will honor it, and that will result in cheaper prices on commodities. Why do you think everything is so expensive in the Muslim world? Because they don't trust one another, so they raise their prices.
Yeah.
It's amazing how a good economy and trust is very. A lot of people don't understand the connection between successful economies and the element of trust.
Yeah, I think this is very little remarked upon. Very few people realize this or have pondered on it. Yes. It's a remarkable insight. And speaking of trust and truth, I understand you just debated Tariq Ramadan.
Yes, I did. 2 weeks ago, I was in the United Kingdom. I had a debate at Oxford University. Actually, there were 10 people doing the debate. 2 of them were members of parliament and a lot of philosophy professors. And the topic was why, not why, the topic was religion is harmful to society. And my position was some religions are harmful to societies, not all, and Islam is certainly harmful to society. And I made a few examples because I only had 6 minutes to speak. The first example was, how can a religion be good to society when it kills people who leave it? And another dilemma of Islam that I debated on was, Islam seeks control of the government. Without government control, Islam feels impotent. So Islam's #1 goal is government control. At the same time, the dilemma of Islam is that it forbids criticism of the religion. And that is why Islam can never have a democracy, because if a religion or an ideology seeks government control, it has to be open to criticism. But Islam is not open to criticism. And this is the dilemma of Islam. And this was the main point that I gave, and why Islam is harmful to society, because it wants to bring 2 elements to government that cannot happen together, which is total control of government and no criticism of Islam and government as well, because government and Islam are the same. And this is the main point that I made on why it's harmful to society.
So Tariq Ramadan, I should say, for the benefit of those who may not know him, is a very prominent so-called moderate Muslim leader. He is the author of many books, including To Be a European Muslim, in which he's given the impression to Westerners that he is calling for reform in Islam. He's even been termed the Muslim Martin Luther. But when you look more closely at what he says and writes, there is nothing in there that challenges any established element of Islamic law, and nothing that calls for any genuine reform. He is also the grandson of Hassan al-Banna, the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood, and his father was a very prominent Muslim Brotherhood operative himself. And so it seems much more likely that Tariq Ramadan is not being entirely sincere, that once again we cannot trust what he is saying, in that he is posing as a moderate reformer when he is actually working to advance the Islamic supremacist agenda of bringing Sharia to the West. So what did he say during this debate, Nonie?
Well, he started by attacking me right away, saying that I'm playing on the emotions of the people. Because how can I be afraid of a religion that's has a death fatwa on me? So he thinks this is too emotional manipulation on my part. And then he said he just criticized and denied. He denied that Al-Qaradawi stated that Islam will end if we, Al-Qaradawi gave a statement, and it's on YouTube, in which he said that he is for the death penalty for apostasy because without the death penalty for apostasy, Islam will end. He said Islam will end.
That's astonishing. So he's saying that if we don't threaten to kill people who leave, everybody will leave.
Exactly. And he stated that without the death penalty for apostasy, Islam will not exist. So I stated that, and to my surprise, Tariq Ramadan denied that. And he
denied Qaradawi had said it, or he denied that it was true?
He denied Qaradawi had said it, and he said, and as a matter of fact, Qaradawi doesn't mind at all. He's against the death penalty for apostasy. And I was like, the playing of words. There is nothing that Tariq Ramadan is bringing to the table that's new. He is using the same thing, all of the so-called moderate Muslim excuses for Islam. He's not giving anything that's new in an idea to reform Islam. All he's doing is discredit people with new ideas like myself. So I'm just surprised how much respect he is given in the West. Maybe because of his cute little European accent when he speaks English. People get so impressed with and you know how they introduced him at Oxford? They introduced him as one of the great thinkers in the world.
Oh, my. Oh, that's appalling.
One of the greatest thinkers in the world? This is not a title. What title is that? It's just a shame that Oxford University is drinking the Kool-Aid of Muslims. Absolutely.
It's interesting also because I used to follow Tariq Ramadan on Twitter, and just recently he put up a thing there saying that the Jews of Medina were accepted as full members of the Ummah by the Muslims when Muhammad moved to Medina. And I wrote back, then what happened? Where are they now? And he blocked me. And so I think one of the world's greatest thinkers, and he can't even answer an elementary question about Islamic history or defend a point that he himself was making. And his Twitter feed also is littered with cliches and ridiculous little sayings and epigrams that are accepted by his followers as if they're great wisdom. It's astonishing how far one can rise in the world today if you have the right opinions.
With lies. Well, he's doing the Islamic lying. And if you go back to what he stated about the Jews of Medina.
Yes.
Medina was a town ruled by Jews.
Yes.
And Muhammad was in Mecca. He was running away with 100-some Muslims. He was the weak side when he moved to Medina. The Jews were the strong side when he moved to Medina. They could have rejected him. They could have not allowed him to move into their town. They were much larger in numbers. And they welcomed him for their own demise. So when Tariq Ramadan makes a statement like that Muhammad, when he moved to Medina, he was gracious enough to include them. It's a joke.
Yes.
It's exactly the opposite. It's the Jews who were gracious enough to include him in Medina, which was a Jewish town.
Don't you think people like Tariq Ramadan, they prey on the ignorance of
Absolutely.
most non-Muslims about Islamic history and about the contents of the Quran?
Absolutely. And Muhammad was a traitor to the Jews. He entered their town, they welcomed him, and instead of appreciating them, the minute he became wealthy through terror, like he said, he became wealthy through terror, that's when he turned against them because he wanted their wealth. He wanted to occupy their homes. He wanted to take their women and to enslave their children and kill their men. And that's what he did. That's the gratitude he gave to the Jews after he became strong through terror.
So here again, we see the loss of trust. We started out by talking about the suspicion that is rife between people in Muslim countries and the suspicion and mistrust that even two Muslim countries have for one another. And then moved on to speak about Tariq Ramadan and how his own statements about Islam are not trustworthy. And we see that the same thing in Muhammad's life, that he made these agreements with the Jews of Medina and then broke them. And so would it be overstating the case, Nonie, to say that the lack of trust goes all the way back to the beginning of Islamic history?
Absolutely. I mean, Islam does not have the trust in itself to be an honest religion, because inside Islam is an existential problem, and it doesn't trust itself, so it is based on lies. The number one enemy of Islam is the truth. And actually, the number one enemy of any tyranny is the truth. And that's why America today, under Obama, I am starting to see similarities whereby now lying about the health care is an honorable thing. The media is covering up. We are lying to the American people now. We are adopting some of these easy solutions through lying, thinking we're benefiting the country because our intention is to give Americans free health care. So in order to do that, if we have a couple of white lies by our president, it's okay. And we are adopting some of the same unethical standards that are only used by tyrannical systems like Islam and communism, fascism. It's coming to America.
Yes, it does seem so, especially also because the Obama administration is completely on board, apparently, with the Organization of Islamic Cooperation's war against the freedom of speech. And as you know, the OIC has been working for years to compel Western governments to criminalize criticism of Islam under the guise of incitement to religious hatred or something of that kind. Now, of course, when you talk about it in those terms, everybody's for it. Nobody's for hatred. Nobody's for incitement. But what they really mean when you start to read closely into what they're talking about, when they speak of incitement to religious hatred, they mean any kind of honest discussion about how Islam, in its core texts and teachings, justifies violence and supremacism. And here again, though Obama doesn't stand up and say we have to defend the freedom of speech, but we saw instead in Libya when he knew that it was an al-Qaeda jihad attack that killed Ambassador Stevens and his colleagues, he still persisted in saying it's all because of this YouTube video. In other words, it's really all about our freedom of speech, and if we stopped insulting Muhammad, these things wouldn't happen. Nonie, we're at the halfway point, and so it's time for a break. We are here with Nonie Darwish, the noted freedom fighter and the author of Cruel and Usual Punishment, a study of Sharia and how it outrages various elements of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and universally noted, universally held principles of human rights. This is ABN's Jihad Watch program. I am Robert Spencer, and we will be right back with more from Nonie Darwish after this.
The word gospel translates to news that brings joy. But this isn't just any news. A gospel is news that changes a life forever. After being invaded and enslaved by Persia, Greece won 2 decisive battles at Marathon and Solnus. The Greeks sent out heralds, also called evangelists, to proclaim the good news to the cities. We have fought for you. We have won. And now you're no longer slaves. You're free. The reality is that we are all slaves, slaves to sin and slaves to death. We are slaves in need of good news. Enter Jesus, God's Son, fully God, fully man, bringing news that would change our lives forever. His news was this: I am the divine, come to you to do what you could not do for yourself. I will take what you deserve so you can have what I deserve. You have no idea how much it will cost me, but you also cannot imagine the depths of my love for you. It is a gift that I give freely. So repent. Repent from all the ways you've run from me and follow me. Follow me because I am the only way to eternal life. Follow me because I'm the Savior you've been looking for. Follow me because I have authority over everything, yet I have humbled myself for you. Follow me because I died on a cross for you, because I'm your true love and your true life. This is my good news for you. This is my gospel, that you have been saved by grace and that you are slaves no more.
And we're back. This is ABN's Jihad Watch program, and I am Robert Spencer. We are here with Nonie Darwish, the author of Cruel and Usual Punishment, The Devil We Don't Know, and Now They Call Me Infidel. And we are discussing the loss of trust, the lack of trust that Muslims have for one another, the lack of trust that Islamic law inculcates into the mindset of the devout Muslim, and the lack of trust that is manifested in various ways that, that Muslim states, as well as individuals and Islamic groups in the West, behave toward their, even their friends, supporters, and benefactors. Nonie, are you still with us?
I am here, Robert.
Excellent. Well, we're talking about the lack of trust. I think back to your own early life and upbringing, and to how you were indoctrinated with a virulent anti-Semitism, and how it all turned out to be based on lies. Can you explain what exactly happened?
Well, I'm just like any other Arab child growing up in the Middle East. Life to us is about hatred of Jews. Actually, being a good Muslim is about hatred of Jews. And it's at the heart of Islam, really. Anti-Semitism towards Jews is at the soul of Islam. I don't think Islam can function normally as a religion without the teaching of I am against Jews. It is a topic that you hear in every mosque prayer. It's a political topic wherever you see politicians. That's all they talk about. It is an obsession. It's an Islamic obsession without which they can't let go. It fulfills a function, though. So it's not a coincidence why Islam is so obsessed with hatred of Jews.
Well, why indeed? What is this all about? Why would they be so thoroughly scapegoated?
This goes to the soul of Islam itself. And I wrote an article called Why Muslims Must Hate Jews. When Muhammad was in Medina and he started turning against the Jewish tribes because he started looking bad. Here he was making his wealth through terror and through attacking caravans, unarmed caravans. And the Jews in the Medina were making their living through hard work. He started looking bad, and he called himself a prophet. So even by Arabian Peninsula standards, this didn't look very kosher. So he concocted a plan to get rid of the Jews and take their wealth by accusing them that they are collaborating with his enemies in Mecca. And he did elaborate work. If you read the Quran and the life of Muhammad, you will see how he was making the people ready to go kill the Jews. A lot of the Jewish the Muslim fighters who were with Muhammad refused. They didn't want to go kill the Jews because they were living with them in Medina. They knew them personally. And many verses in the Quran were cursing those who escaped and ran away from wanting to go kill with Muhammad. So Muhammad didn't just encourage them with heaven to go kill Jews, to go get 72 virgins, but he also cursed them from not running away if they don't want to kill Jews. And he had elaborate punishments and cursing for Muslims who didn't want to go do that.
So,
and after he killed the Jews, Muhammad had, even by Arabian Peninsula standard, he started looking bad. How can a prophet of Allah decapitate almost 900 men and take their wives as sexual slaves? It started looking bad for him. And that's why he had to give an excuse in the Quran that really the people I killed, those Jews are really not human. They are apes, pigs, and enemies of Allah. And it was my duty towards Allah to kill them. So it became an existential problem for him. He had to explain why he did that to the Jews, why he decapitated them, why he enslaved them, why he took them as sexual slaves. He had to give an explanation. Otherwise, Muhammad will be a murderer and not a prophet. So it became essential for Islam to hate the Jews. It became part of Islam to survive, is to hate Jews. Without hating Jews and accusing them of being subhuman and less than human, deserving of being eliminated from the face of the earth. Then what he did eliminate them from the Arabian Peninsula. And that's why Islam thought that they can now practice Islam, fooling everybody that there is nothing called a scandal with the Jews. Lo and behold, they started, after Muhammad died, Muslims moved to the rest of the Middle East and found a lot of Jews there and found their holy land. And that was an embarrassment for Islam to survive. And that's why they had to build a mosque on top of their holiest of holy areas of their temple in order to eliminate the existence of the Jews, their history. Their history has to be eliminated in order for Islam to be credible.
So a lot of people would say this is all about Israel. A lot of people would say, oh, no, it's just Israel, and if Israel would stop oppressing Palestinians, then there would be no anti-Semitism among Muslims. What would you say to that? What do you say when people say that to you? And I'm sure they do.
It's a joke because Islamic anti-Semitism did not start in 1948 when Israel became a state. Islamic anti-Semitism started in the 7th century. Islamic anti-Semitism started the day Muhammad decapitated them, is when Islamic anti-Semitism had to start. Otherwise, Muhammad was going to be a murderer and not a prophet. So it's essential for the existence of Islam, for the credibility of Islam, for the credibility of the Prophet of Islam, that Jews remain as evil, subhuman, less than animals, worthy of being killed. Otherwise, if they are not, the day Muslims announce that Jews are just as human as we are, the day Islam makes peace with the Jews is the day Islam becomes null and void.
And yet when we see Muslims in the West and organizations like the Council on American Islamic Relations and others, they're always holding outreach, and there are rabbis there, and they go to temple and synagogues, and they speak to Jewish groups, and they seem to be very well received, and they don't say anything like these things. Once again, is this a manifestation of this lack of trust? Are they deceiving these Jewish groups, or is their friendship real?
Absolutely. You have a culture, which is a Jewish culture and a Judeo-Christian culture, that's based on truth. At least that's the value system. And when they see people who look so sincere, they really buy it. But I would like to invite people of care and the Muslim groups who are inviting the Jewish groups in America to bring them to Cairo and hold hands there. to invite them to Saudi Arabia and hold hands there. I want them to be genuine and stand in front of Al-Azhar University and declare the end of anti-Semitism, declare the end of Jew hatred in Islam. I want them to do that. Doing it in America is just another fabrication and lie, just because they are the minority here. But I want them to do it where it should be done.
It seems like it's the same thing as in so many cases we see. For example, last year when the Council on American Islamic Relations was running those ads about jihad, and they said, my jihad is to go to the gym and stay in shape. My jihad is to take the kids to school, and so on. And this was actually hailed by many non-Muslims as being genuine reform, as if somehow the fact that some people think of jihad in peaceful ways cancels out the fact that there are armed jihad groups killing infidels all around the world. But in any case, the real big question was, why were they running these ads in Chicago and San Francisco and places like that instead of in Cairo or Riyadh or Karachi?
Exactly. They are doing these ads not for their own benefit, not for other Muslims to see. They are doing these ads for Americans to see, for the benefit of the Jews and the Christians who are the real enemies of Islam. This is all part of the fabric of lying, of distrust in Islam. And unfortunately, the West is buying it. They are not asking them the right questions. Why aren't the Jews and the Christians in America who are buying this propaganda telling them, why don't we go do this big hoopla in Cairo? Why don't we go do this big hoopla of love fest between Jews and Muslims in Riyadh? They are not. And unfortunately, the problem with Islam is not just the radical Muslims. Robert, I think moderate Muslims are the main problem with Islam, because these Muslim groups are placing these ads that my jihad is to love my children and my jihad is to do. These people are really sincere. They really believe what they're saying, because they are lying to themselves. They are in denial of their own faith. So the problem with Islam is not just the terrorists and the radicals. The problem with Islam is the moderate Muslims who are feeding the same propaganda of lying and promoting the distrust, and they have no courage whatsoever to examine their holy books. Honestly and truly. They are interpreting a religion in their own mind that doesn't exist. I was on the phone recently with a friend of mine in Egypt, and I really have been catering to moderate Muslims quite a bit. I talk to them a lot on the phone, and my last call was with a gentleman who was he used to be in the army, in the Egyptian army, and he's very proud that he killed a lot of Jews. And he told me, I was telling him, how is Egypt now? He said, yeah, very, very, very good. We're gonna get rid of this Muslim Brotherhood, those radicals, because they are really financed by the Zionists. You don't know that the reason we have the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt is all because of Israel. They are financing them. And we moderate Muslims are against the Muslim Brotherhood because we're against those Jews who are financing the Muslim Brotherhood. Amazing. For the first time in my life, Robert, I got the courage to tell my friend, I am sorry, but I don't want you to call me anymore. I really cannot continue this relationship.
Good.
And I really don't want to be around these enablers. These so-called moderate Muslims who are doing the bidding with the radicals. They are in a dance with the radical Muslims. Moderate Muslims are in a dance with radical Muslims. They are doing their role, and the terrorists are doing their role, and they are both deceiving the West, and they are both bringing us lying as something that we have to tolerate. And we are buying it.
Yes, it's true, and just falling for it without any demur. You know, that also reminds me of the entire Islamophobia campaign and the whole idea that what you and I do and what other people do when we speak out against jihad terror and Islamic supremacism is somehow wrong and bigoted and hateful. Would you say that the whole idea of Islamophobia is another example of this dishonesty that you were saying is intrinsic or inherent within the Islamic supremacist mindset?
How can they even call us Islamophobes? How can they call me Islamophobe? How do they expect me not to be afraid of Islam? This is not a phobia. I am afraid of Islam, but I'm afraid of Islam for good reason. They want to kill me.
Yes.
And I think if I was not afraid, I won't be normal. It's important that we understand that we fear Islam for good reason, because Islam is a formula for chaos. Islam is a formula for unhappiness. Islam is a formula for deception. Islam is a formula for life without joy and without life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
How many Muslims do you think realize this? I mean, I know you were raised a Muslim. How did it begin to dawn on you that this wasn't this perfect and wonderful thing that you had been taught that it was?
It was very gradual, Robert. I believed until maybe my mid-30s that it's probably me. Something is wrong with me because I can't buy Islam. I don't feel comfortable with the religion, and it's probably me. I thought it was, maybe I don't understand it enough. And when I tried to understand it, I figured finally why I'm not comfortable. Because I was able to understand that, no, it's not, the problem is not me. The problem is Islam. And that's when I had the courage to read and analyze that religion. I have to thank America, Robert, for that, and people like you, Robert.
So you think if you'd been in Egypt, you never would have realized these things?
No way, because the way Islam is given such an honor beyond imagination. Islam, the ritualistic things that are done about the Quran, how they hold it, how holy, how Muhammad, every time you utter his name, you have to say, may God bless him. Peace be upon him. All this, people buy it. People don't understand that they are buying a lie.
Do they feel the oppression? Do Muslim women feel the strictures of the laws that they have to live under? Are they aware of it?
There is two kinds of Muslim women. Very few of them are like me, who figured the lie and are standing openly to it. There is the doormat who is totally oppressed by Islam and does not have the power to open her mouth and say, I'm oppressed. And then there is the aggressive Muslim woman who wears her head cover with pride and who says, I'm proud of being a Muslim. I support Sharia. I want to give my kids for jihad. And she feels that if you can't win them, join them. And these women who are proud to be Muslims, and they actually take their daughters to be to have female genital mutilation, and they report on the bad girls who don't want to wear their hijab. These women are very aggressive, and there is a lot of Muslim women who are very aggressive, very powerful. So not all Muslim women are against Sharia. Actually, there's a good portion, because this is a Stockholm syndrome. Islam managed to pit women against each other, the doormat against the Sharia enforcer. And that's how Islam wins. Islam wins by pitting the Christians against the Jews in the Muslim world. And this is how Islam wins. Look at all the most of the Christians in the Middle East are anti-Semitic. They hate Jews, but they are unaware that they are both dhimmis. The Christian Arabs are unaware that they are just as dhimmi as the Jews. But they are trying to please the Muslims, to please those terrorists. Please don't hate me. I'm not like the Jews. The same thing. The oppressed women, the aggressive women is buying the Kool-Aid, telling the Islamic radicals, don't hate me, I'm not like these bad Muslim women who don't wear the hijab. I am the good, honorable one. And these are the women who get promoted. They become members of parliament. Their pictures are in the Arab media as heroes. Look, her women, female relatives killed Jews. She committed terrorism, and she's volunteering her sons to do jihad, and that's how they earn lifetime pensions and become honored in society. So we are falling in the West in the same thing. Islam survives on dividing people and making them, they just do one act of terror, just one act of terror, and they divide everybody around them, and they make everybody collide. And the West is doing the same thing. After 9/11, America has been divided against each other. Americans who call the other half of America is calling the other half Islamophobes.
Yes.
We are drinking the Kool-Aid of Islam.
Yes.
Wake up, America.
Absolutely. Obviously, I couldn't agree more. Nonie, we're coming down to the last few minutes. Do you have any new projects or anything of that kind that you'd like to tell us about?
Well, I'm starting my 4th book.
Wonderful.
Which I haven't. I'm working on that. I'm very committed, Robert, to speaking to Americans, especially on college campuses, and informing them. And hopefully they wake up before it's too late.
What kind of reception do you get?
Unfortunately, it's a split reception. Half of America loves me, and half of America hates me.
Yes.
And it's all because America is divided against itself. And that reminds me of Islamic women. Half of them are beating the other half because one half wants to please the tyrant, the other half join them. If you can't please them, join them.
Yes.
And this is the dynamic of tyranny. Terrorism, Robert, terrorism works. But
That's why we keep seeing so much of it.
Terrorism works, but we have to start standing up to terrorism the right way.
I couldn't agree more. Standing up to terrorism the right way would take what form?
We have to start engaging with them at their same level.
Yes.
They want to terrorize us. Okay, the punishment is we're not going to accept any immigration from Islamic countries anymore.
Well, since you can't, there's no way to tell what the allegiance of an immigrant is to the jihad ideology and to terrorism, it's very self-defeating to accept them now.
We have to start admitting we are in a war with Islam the way it's practiced today. We have to start admitting what our problem is. Our problem is with people who want to force Sharia on the West, who want to terrorize us into submission. And if we are not going to call it by this name, we are fighting an enemy that is hitting us from below the belt. Yes. And we don't want to go to their level. And as long as we're not going to go to their level, we're going to lose. We have to go to their level.
Well, without compromising the principles on which we stand, no?
Yeah, I'm not saying lie and cheat and kill. What I'm saying is there are certain things that's going to really hurt them. And it's ending immigration from Muslim countries. Anybody who speaks about Sharia in the West should be deported if they are not citizens. I mean, we have to be really tough.
Yes.
Because remember, the Jews welcomed Muhammad in Medina when he was a minority and they were the majority. Look what happened to them at the end. This is what's going to happen to anybody who accommodates Islam as it is practiced today.
Nonie, I think these are very important words, and I thank you for being on the show. We are out of time. It's been a most fascinating discussion, and I thank you again for joining us. I hope that all of America does heed your words. Nonie Darwish, ladies and gentlemen, very foremost freedom fighter in the world today. Pick up her books, Cruel, Unusual Punishment, Now They Call Me Infidel, and The Devil We Don't Know. And we're looking forward to your 4th. We'll have you back on then, Nonie, when it comes out. In the meantime, this is ABN's Jihad Watch program. I'm Robert Spencer. Thank you very much for watching, and God bless you.
Thank you, Rob.